So we got the Army and Navy game out of the way. Let's get into now some of these later bowl games that are going to be happening also on Saturday. This is going to be happening later on in the evening, and we go into the Isleta, New Mexico Bowl. The Isleta, New Mexico Bowl is going to be taking place at 5:45 Eastern. This is actually going to be at New Mexico Stadium, and it will be a de facto home game for New Mexico State, as even though this is not going to be happening at the home stadium for New Mexico State, they do have the advantage of not having to travel as far as who they would go up against in this bowl game. And in this bowl game, they will be going up against Fresno State. And this is a tale of two teams that are going in two different directions right now. This New Mexico State team, man, this New Mexico State team is doing something that has rarely been seen in the history of the program. New Mexico State is at 10 wins. That is the most wins that this Aggies team has since 1960, when they went 11-0, culminating in a Sun Bowl victory, back when bowl games had a little bit more emphasis. Not only is this team and the 1960 team are the only two teams ever that have double-digit victories, there's also only been two other teams that have even broken 8 games. And, you think of that 8-win barrier, you hear 8-4 and 8-5. So many more casual college football fans are going to be quick to say, oh, well, they're a mid team. Nah, if you're 8-4, 8-5, that's a good season. You might have fallen under expectations at certain programs, but for most schools, that's either hitting expectations or exceeding expectations if you end up putting together an 8-win season. And New Mexico State, not only did they break that 8-win barrier, they are out here with a 10-4 record. They're finishing up as the runners up of the Conference USA too. Now, you could say the Conference USA is a little bit on that lighter side in talent, and that's perfectly understandable if you think that way. We did talk about going in the bowl season who we believed is the worst conference in the country. We ranked the conferences in a previous podcast. We did have Conference USA at the very bottom, in the same tier as the back, but Conference USA, we has the worst conference in the country. But what New Mexico State is for real, man. This is a legit team that is very well coached, and I am frankly shocked that Jerry Kill has not received more looks to get better opportunities on at least in the West Coast. Because what he's doing with this New Mexico State squad is completely unprecedented. Shoot, he had this team go into Jordan-Hare Stadium, play Auburn, and embarrass Auburn in their home field. This is some NCAA 14 stuff that they're doing. And the big reason why they're able to do what they're doing is for a multitude of reasons. This is a scrappy football team. This is a football team that is well coached. Their offensive line is actually rock solid. And they have a dynamic quarterback, Diego Pavia, who I believe is a Conference USA Player of the Year. Or at least he was up there. I don't know if it was him or one of the players from Liberty that got it, but legit quarterback. Very good quarterback. They're an offense that is great on third downs. They take really good care of the football as well. And it's good at scoring when it gets those chances to score. There wasn't anything happening defensively against Liberty, but overall, it's defensively, they're great in the red zone. They're solid on third downs. And aside from the Conference USA Championship, they're actually really good against the run as well. And they're now going up against a team in Fresno State. And this Fresno State team has been horrendous in the month of November. They're actually coming into this bowl game on a 3-game losing streak, losing to New Mexico, losing to San Diego State, losing to San Jose State convincingly. 42-18 was this score. Not to mention their head coach, Jed Tadford, is not even going to be there. It's not that he's going to take a different job. He's staying at Fresno State. Unfortunately, he is dealing with some health issues, and we wish him the best in dealing with those health issues. But Fresno State, on a 3-game losing streak, they are not going to have their head coach as well. So it's easy to understand why New Mexico State is going to be favored, because Fresno State doesn't have the running attack to do much unless Fresno State can get their passing attack to help take the heat off. However, Fresno State is not helpless in their quest to win the New Mexico Bowl, because Fresno State has the benefit of possibly taking on a quarterback who's not going to be at 100%. Pavia did get hurt in the Conference USA Championship. And while he is leaning to play in this game, he still is going to be questionable. So if on the slim chance Pavia does not play in the New Mexico Bowl, this is going to be a different looking New Mexico State team, because they're a more lethal offense under center when they have their quarterback. In addition, while Fresno State has stalled late in the year after starting 8-1 and for quite some time being in a mix for a New Year's Six bowl game, they do also have a solid pass defense. And everything changes if they're able to get takeaways, because one thing that this Fresno State defense is good at doing, they're good at forcing multiple mistakes. They've done that 7 times, and when they're able to force 2 turnovers or more, they finish 6-1 as a team. And when they don't do that, they end up going 2-3. So they don't have to get turnovers to win, but it certainly helps. Now, New Mexico State does not necessarily have a turnover issue per se, but they're not immune to having that letdown performance. Think back to earlier in the year when they lost to UMass. That was actually quite a surprise back in week number 0. That was something that we talked about in one of the first pods of the actual college football season. That surprise of UMass pulling the upset off against New Mexico State. Also, in addition, Liberty was able to turn on the heat against New Mexico State, and they had a hard time not keeping up. But even with that, Fresno State, they have to help themselves instead of just hoping for the Aggies to screw up as well. If Fresno State is going to be able to make this upset happen, they got to be able to start moving the ball again. And it has to do that by being significantly sharper in the passing game. The Bulldogs of Fresno State are unbeaten when they have at least 350 yards of total offense. When they haven't done that, and they haven't done that in this last few weeks, they're just 1-4, including losing their last 3 games. So Fresno State, they're going to pull this off, get multiple turnovers. That has to be extremely important. Also, got to have that sharpness in the passing game. Be efficient. Hit at least 60% of your throws. New Mexico State will not make that easy, because their defense was able to hold down the teams that couldn't throw all that well and allowed everyone else to hit 6% more of their passes. So we'll see what happens there in that particular dynamic. But here's the thing. I think momentum is an extremely big deal in college football. And New Mexico State has it. Fresno State doesn't. And not only do they not have momentum to speak of, but in addition to that, they are going to be missing their head coach. This is a leader of a football team. This is a CEO of your version of an organization. So we see the game line as of Thursday afternoon. New Mexico State is favored by 3.5. The model really likes New Mexico State in this matchup. They have it minus 9.5 in favor of the Aggies. And whether Pavia plays or not, I'm going to be inclined that New Mexico State, I think they do get it done. Even if Pavia is not 100%, whether he doesn't play or if he's limited in what he can do, I think New Mexico State is a scrappier team. I think they're the more motivated team. And finally, I think, plain and simple, even if Fresno State had their head coach, I think they're the better coach team. So, and also coupling this with this being a de facto home game, we're going to go with the Aggies. We're going to pick them to win the game. And not only are we going to pick them to win this game, we are also going to pick New Mexico State to cover that current 3.5 point spread as well.